It's back! After months and months of waiting! We are finally going to be analyzing every Black Ops 4 Zombies map. I've done World of War all the way up to Black Ops 3. It's time for BO4 now. And I think it's only fitting that we start Black Ops 4 with the starting map in Voyage of Despair. If you're a fan of Voyage of Despair and you've read the title, you've likely already left a dislike and you've likely already clicked off the video. But if you haven't, I appreciate that. I appreciate people agreeing to disagree because we don't have the same opinions when it comes to Zombies maps. It just so happens that my opinion of Voyage of Despair and the majority of the communities is that this map sort of sucks. And this isn't just me talking out of my ass. I've ran several polls in the past. Voyage of Despair never tends to miss the bottom 5. Voyage of Despair is the least favorite map in the least favorite Treyarch Zombies game. It's the worst map in Black Ops 4. It isn't the worst map of all time, but it's pretty close, and it's for a couple of reasons. Voyage of Despair, in my opinion, is the lowest of the low. That doesn't mean that there aren't redeeming qualities. There are some great things about Voyage of Despair, but generally, I thought this map went under the radar, and rightfully so. I thought Voyage of Despair was just an underwhelming experience, and at launch, compared to the other 3 maps, just did not hold up as well as we thought. We heavily anticipated this map. We thought it was going to be the golden map, but it turns out 9 was, which was sort of a shocker. Please do leave a like if you're excited for the next episode, which is 9, and subscribe so you don't miss that. Anyways, Voyage of Despair. What an extraordinary concept for a map. How outside of the box is the Titanic as a map? This is something that had limitless potential. Before we got our hands on it, just viewing the trailers, we saw how much potential there was for it. It's not very often that you see a concept or a setting for a map this unique. And on top of that, we were introduced to an entirely new story with our 4 Chaos characters. This was a recipe for success. You have an interesting, fresh new story on the Titanic. What could go wrong? Well, pretty much everything went wrong. The story, unfortunately, wasn't very captivating, which is painful. It's so hard to watch such potential be thrown away. As we all know, the Titanic is one of the most notorious tragedies in human history. Thousands of innocent lives were dragged to the depths of the ocean with it. It's one of the most ironic tales of all time. The unsinkable ship sunk, and thousands of people died because of that. And I felt as though a story revolving around this ship sinking, saving it from sinking, could have been a very amazing Easter egg. I mean, imagine playing a Zombies map on the Titanic where you stop the ship from sinking. That would have been incredible, but unfortunately, we were given something very different. Instead, it's a mission to find Scarlett's father, some mysterious dude that has no character development, no reason to care about him. The origins of the cult, the origins of the Sentinel artifact aren't made very clear and don't really drag much attention to it. And what we end up doing for the Easter egg is defeating a giant eyeball? I'm seriously not that guy that hates everything but Ether. I thought Chaos was somewhat good towards the end of it in Ancient Evil, but honest to God, this was just a total misfire. Personally, I thought the Chaos storyline started off on very weak legs with Voyage of Despair. It didn't carry very much weight with it. The Easter egg was confusing and underwhelming at the same time. I felt as though they had so much potential and it was just wasted. And the weak legs of this story disabled it from moving much further. Everything from here on out sort of descends rapidly. Let's talk about the atmosphere of this map. Though realistic, somehow felt, what's the word? Dull? I understand the Titanic is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at night. It's very cold, it's very harsh, it's very grim. I understand what this map was going for, but I don't feel that when I play Voyage of Despair. When I play this map, I feel empty. The atmosphere is barren. Feels gray, it feels dull. I'm speaking primarily of the outside of the ship. The inside is certainly an improvement in terms of color scheme. It has a warmth to it, it has a life to it. But ultimately, the entirety of the map just feels barren. Again, it feels like the Titanic, it feels realistic, but in the same breath, it somehow lacks that intangible Zombies feel. On a scary map like Nocturne Toten, for example, it's barren as well. A Nocturne Toten has the inexplicable Zombies feel to it, where you feel genuinely scared. It's sort of bone-chilling, but Voyage of Despair, again, it's intangible, it's very hard to put into words, but this map just lacks that feeling. When I look around the map, I see there was a zombie outbreak here. There's blood splattered all over the wall, there's fire, and there's rubble everywhere. I see that, but I don't feel that. And that's a nice transition into the map design. Speaking of rubble, my god, this map is such a clusterfuck. There is shit everywhere. I understand, it all makes sense. There was an outbreak, people's stuff got pushed over, chaos ensued. When you're dealing with a real location, it's hard to manipulate the spacing and make everything feel better for training and all of that. It's bound to be a little bit clusterfucky, but I mean, holy cow. The close quarteredness of this map proves very difficult, particularly on the inside of the ship, but on the outside of the ship to a certain extent as well. On the inside of the ship, you have these very, very narrow hallways, and you have all of these tables and chairs and all of this shit in your way. It makes training, it makes surviving in general very difficult, and it also makes everything look sort of bad. It's sort of an eyesore. With the inside of the ship being so condensed, you're sort of forced to train on the outside of the ship, which is a step up in terms of spacing, but there's still many small things in your way that sort of ruin the momentum of training. It's not the easiest thing to train on this map. I mean, on most zombies maps, even if there isn't a large training area, at least there aren't a ton of objects in your way that sort of screw up the momentum of everything. On Voyage of Despair, you just have all of these objects in your way, and it really proves to be a hassle. I feel like the general design and the spacing just doesn't work, and again, it's hard to manipulate that with a realistic setting. You want to base it correctly off of the real Titanic, and naturally ships just don't have a ton of space, so it makes sense, but it still doesn't work great for zombies. And another issue that tags along with this is that everything sort of looks the same. It's very hard to distinguish different parts of this map, and I don't mean that I don't know what side of the ship I'm on, I do, but it all sort of looks the exact same. I mean, on the inside of the ship, there are 4 levels with the grand staircase. They all sort of look identical. In both flooded areas on opposite sides of the ship, they sort of look the same as well. Every area of this map sort of feels the same. It feels indistinguishable from the next, which isn't the case for a lot of maps. And not to mention, this map is fucking enormous. To get from one side of the ship to the exact opposite, you almost have to take fast travel unless you want to walk for 5 minutes, which is the case for a lot of maps out there, no doubt. There are many giant zombies maps, but this one in particular, it's just so narrow and linear. So in its totality, the design of this map, I would say, is generally poor. And it's not for one particular reason. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay itself. Setting up on this map can be a hoot. I don't know why I said that. No, but seriously, you have to get all the way to the Sentinel artifact on the opposite side of the ship. Not too bad, but is expensive. You have to unflood both ends of the ship, which isn't difficult, but inconvenient. You're doing a lot of running. You have to activate 3 pack-a-punch locations to activate the 4th one, and then from there on, it'll move around the map. Since there's rubble and tiny objects all over the map, finding parts can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So in general, I don't think setting up on this map is a nightmare. It is definitely manageable, but it's slightly inconvenient due to the nature of its design. The wonder weapon of this map, the Kraken, is fitting. I think it is a good weapon. It's unique and it's fun to use. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. I like the 4 elemental upgrades. You can get it out of the box, and as long as you have those 3 parts, you can upgrade it and get the alternate ammo type. It's very accessible, which I enjoy about it. And really beyond that, there isn't anything noteworthy about the gameplay because everything else is sort of standard. One thing I don't like about Voyage of Despair are the boss zombies, which is a Black Ops 4 issue at large. You have the Catalyst zombies, which single-handedly fucking ruin the experience for me, but you also have those giant Requise looking dudes, as I commonly refer to them as. They're sort of a nuisance. The Blightfathers are a pain in the ass. Collectively, it's a clusterfuck. There's too many bosses to be worrying about. But again, I'm not going to pick on Voyage for that. I am going to pick on BO4 for that, though. This map in general is sort of a clusterfuck. Voyage of Despair is the lowest of the low. And saying that out loud now, I'm realizing sounds sort of harsh. It isn't by any means the worst map. It is pretty close because it just didn't do anything outstanding. The design, in my opinion, was generally poor. The atmosphere just didn't click. It lacked that intangible zombies feel. And there was so much wasted potential with the story and the Easter egg. I just thought Voyage of Despair was at the very least, the worst Black Ops 4 map. And I am confident with this one. I don't think it's that unpopular of an opinion. Again, I've asked several people, I've ran polls. This one is the lowest of Black Ops 4. It's a map that I honestly don't ever go out of my way to play because there are just better alternatives. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I'm going to be producing these every single Sunday night. going forward. Hopefully, sometimes I can be a little bit inconsistent with that, but just anticipate these every single Sunday night until we finish Black Ops 4, and then, you know, after we finish BO4, it's over. I hope you have a great week at school or work or whatever it is that you're up to, and I gotta go. So peace out.